Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation for May 24th, 2023. I am Samantha Priestinson, the President of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. I use she, her pronouns. At this time, I will ask the clerk to call the roll so we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Board Member Fry is absent. Board Member Abene.
Present.
Board Member Jenkins. Board Member Koski. Vice President Brandt.
Present.
President Priestinson.
Present.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum, and we will now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, also known as LIMS, and you can find that available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Colleagues, board members, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda? Is there a second? Second. We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next, we move to the acceptance of minutes from the May 10th, 2023 meeting. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the minutes are accepted as presented. We do not have any public comment for today, so we will move on from that. Moving on to item 5 on our agenda, which is receiving the annual presentation of the 20-year Neighborhood Park Plan from the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. Welcome, Director Van Gore and Michael. Is it Schrader or Schroeder?
Schroeder.
Schroeder, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Priestinson and members of the BET. It's great here. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I always look forward to presenting our NPP 20 annual report. We are doing some really exciting and really amazing things in the park system. One of the numbers I want to share with you, since 2017, $60 million has been invested in our park system. And you start to kind of see that as you go around the park system through all the different efforts that we're doing around our infrastructure and all of the rehabilitation work that we're doing. So it is really, for me to see that and for community to respond to that is really exciting. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to turn this over to Assistant Superintendent Schroeder. But what we'll do today is we'll go through the 20-year Neighborhood Park Plan, and we'll talk first of all about the executive summary, which we'll share with you. We'll talk about the history and the background that we will share with you. We'll talk about the NPP 20 rehabilitation efforts that we have going on within our system, and also the NPP 20 capital investments that we will also present to you. And then for reference, I know we did hand out the report, but the reference information on page 18 and 19 of the report is really great information for you to dive deeper into information, or for the community to look at all the different reference lists so that they can dive deeper into the NPP 20 and get more information. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce the Assistant Superintendent of Planning, Michael Schroeder, who will go through the report. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Superintendent Van Gore, Chair Priestinson, and members. Thank you for having us here. I've been told I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to move through this fairly quickly and allow you to have questions. I know some of you have been through this a few times before, so the report that we've sent to you has been abbreviated, but the content is the same. The presentation that we make is very similar. We've simply updated the years, but I'll go through and try and explain a bit about what this is. This is the result of what we refer to at the Park Board as a historic moment between the City and the Park Board that established the Neighborhood Park Plan for the 20-year period. And with that, we passed a concurrent ordinance, or an ordinance that forced us to look at rehabilitating parks in neighborhoods on an equity basis, which was one of the first times, I think it was the first time it was done anywhere in the country. And we have been honing that as we have learned more every year. And so we're very proud of the work we've been doing to help overcome the disparities that we know have existed in the park system for a long time. We know we have further to go, but we have a few years left in this program, and we hope to be able to continue moving on that. This is tax levy to support operations and maintenance and repairs as a part of this. It started with $3 billion in 2017, and that amount of money goes up every year, and that's shown in the left portion of the screen. On the right portion is what we call the guaranteed minimum amount that's divided between capital and rehabilitation projects. That amount was set at $10.5 million when the program was initiated. with a review every 5 years, and that amount is now at $11.5 million as we look at 2023. The annual report provides a lot of detail, and it covers a 3-year period. Looking back 2 years, it takes us basically 3 years from the time dollars are allotted to get an implemented project. We look at MPP 20 to improve efficiency in a number of ways. The first and most important is the increased maintenance allows us to prolong the life cycle of assets that we have in our system. And it helps significantly in reduction of the backlog of repairs that we've had. Some of these improvements that we're making through MPP 20 will end up saving us dollars in terms of how we maintain things, how we consume energy, and those are important to align with the goals, particularly of the current Board of Commissioners. This, I've kind of spoke to it already. We had a $10.5 million original allocation for capital and rehabilitation, and you can see how it's been increasing since the required adjustment happened in 2021. We budget our improvements through our capital improvement program. I noted already the equity ordinance that have been significant both in our neighborhood parks, but also in our regional parks. What was important when we took this project on, we had projects in the capital system from going back to before 2016. In fact, going back to 2011, projects that we hadn't completed, those projects were honored so the neighborhoods wouldn't be put back in their sequence. As of 2022, all of the projects are in the NPP 20 program. We're looking at all of the parks in the system, 160 some neighborhood parks, benefiting from this program by the time we finish it in 2026. In fact, at the pace that we're going, we'll probably finish sometime in 2034 or 35 and be able to begin addressing the high equity need parks again for a second time during the course of the program. I'll speak a little bit about the rehabilitation program first, then move on to the capital program. Rehabilitation, there's a lot of words on this page, but it was simply the means that we use to make certain that parks that wouldn't be getting allocations early in the cycle would have their assets perpetuated in some form, some usable form, until we reach the capital program. So swings and other parts of playgrounds would be replaced so that we could have that playground serviceable until we got to the point where we could do a wholesale replacement and upgrade of a playground. We also would address critical failures to this program. Even as we were going through this program, we noted that there were cracked beams and roofs at one of our recreation centers. So the rehabilitation program takes care of immediate pressing repairs, and it helps us get to the point where we have a functional system across the system while we're waiting to do capital repairs in some of those parks that won't come up in their equity sequence for a number of years. We do assessments of this every year. We're getting way better at doing the assessments, the annual assessments, much more detail on how we do those assessments. And we re-rank and prioritize the rehabilitation program every year. You'll note that we have rankings and programmed parks in the capital program for every year. For the rehabilitation program, we have dollars set aside, and we work through those incrementally. And we continue to kind of pick off projects off the list as far as the rehabilitation dollars will go every year, and then continue on through that list in subsequent years. In the capital program, we actually identify parks that we're going to be dealing with in a specific year. And I'll note that we have been adjusting the dollar allocation between capital and rehab slightly every year, tending to be around 35% capital, or I'm sorry, 35% rehabilitation and about 65% capital projects. And that will probably change slightly this year. These are the rehabilitation categories. On the left side of the screen, we have 9 of them. We actually have one that we don't show here, which is the rehabilitation of synthetic turf fields. So this is from 2021, and you'll note as we go across here, there's a particular a column that says amount not drawn down. So those are projects that we haven't started yet. It takes us a couple of years to get through a project, so the amount not drawn down is in operations facilities, and that is the rehabilitation of our service centers where our staff works out of. And it's because we're trying to aggregate those funds so we can make a major improvement in one or more of our facilities. You'll see that of the dollars we allocated, other than that we've spent them in 2021 and largely the same in 2022 with a couple of exceptions. When we look at things like accessibility improvements, we end up having some significant costs around rehabilitating recreation centers. It's been the largest rehabilitation category we have. Every year, the first 5 years, we've had $800,000. I think we continue to allocate $800,000 because of the pressing need to upgrade our facilities for ADA. And so those projects can range in cost from $300,000 or $400,000, $500,000. So in some of those cases, we add them on to a subsequent year so we can actually accomplish a project. And that's what's going on with accessibility improvements here. 2023. So this was this chart was created at the beginning, towards the beginning of the first quarter of this year. So we hadn't really started very much into the programs. If we were to redo this in June or July, you'd probably see that we are significantly through many of these rehabilitation projects. Capital investments are the ones that we use the equity metrics to score, and so we're working our way through. From the highest need parks to the lowest need parks. And we do that every year. We redo that. Nobody loses their place in line, but we redo it so that we're not missing a park that would have been important as conditions change across the city. So these are the 2021 capital improvements. Capital improvements take us longer to do. We spend a significant portion of a year doing engagement and preliminary design. That takes up basically the first year. A good portion of the second year is putting together final design and documents and hopefully getting a project started in construction and finishing out the third year. So when we look at capital, it's basically a 3-year sequence for us. So when you look at 2021 projects, the amount completed or the amount allocated is by the time we get to the end of this year, we will have expended those funds largely and have a zero balance in the allocations for 2021. And you see those numbers change significantly as we move forward in 2022. And even as we move into 2023, you'll see there's a number of parks there that we basically haven't invested anything in yet because we are just starting the engagement process. The other thing that was a nuance between 2020 and 2021 is that we couldn't, in our capital program, do the kind of engagement that we would normally do during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we switched and we did more rehabilitation in that year so that we could keep making progress on parks, and we set aside some progress that we would have otherwise made on capital projects simply because we couldn't engage people to the degree we would have wanted to. We also note that there's capital projects that were funded prior to 2021, which some of them are just now being completed. We, like other municipal or other agencies, are running into issues with rising construction costs and bids that are out of line with our budgets. We have spent a lot of time trying to direct more dollars into our budgets and be a little more careful about the things that we put into projects so that we can get these projects actually moving and completed. President Bangura noted, and I think it's one of the things that we're most proud of as we look at what we've done. I think the number's around $62 or $66 million we've been able to invest in neighborhood parks since we started this program in 2017 was the first year of the program. And it's made a significant change in the way people feel about their parks, and we're very excited to continue moving through the rest of the program. And I'll stop and answer questions and allow Superintendent Bangura to answer questions as well.
Great. Also note for the record that Mayor Fry has joined us. Welcome, Mayor Fry. Good afternoon. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Vice President Brandt.
Mr. Schroeder, the equity-based component of your neighborhood parks plan was particularly impressive and innovative. But it seems to me that it's, to some extent, it's being offset by the park dedication program. Development tends to happen in gentrifying or wealthy areas, and that pumps more money into those areas. I'm familiar with a couple of them, and I think my neighborhood is due for an improvement. Have you considered any adjustments? I know that you're limited on where you can spend park dedication funds by the nexus requirements, that it be within a certain distance of the development, but have you considered any adjustments to the capital improvement program to take that into account?
Chair Priest Simpson and Member Brandt, that is an amazingly difficult question, and you're spot on, because the wealthy neighborhoods, there are some neighborhoods who have had millions of dollars accrued in their parkland dedication kind of accounts, where there are others that have barely any dollars. And there seems to be a striking correlation between those neighborhoods where development is happening, or where development isn't happening, and where the needs are probably greatest in terms of parks, and particularly making up for some of the disparities that we've recognized. We've recognized it as an issue. I can't tell you that we have a solution for it, but we know it's an issue. We have tried to use aspects of the ordinance. We're allowed to invest in trail connections that cross over neighborhood boundaries, and we've done that in one case so far. We're still limited by the half-mile nexus from a project, so we're trying to be more careful about identifying projects, development projects that are close to borders, so that we can try to make some other improvements, recognizing that people cross neighborhood boundaries to use parks that are next door. So we're trying to be more aware of that. We recognize it's a conundrum for us, to be honest.
Madam Chair, I have another question. As I read the report, it appears that you are reporting on the things that you are required to report on according to the agreement. But it seems to focus a lot on inputs and not on results. I mean, you can point to a project and say, we accomplished this. What I don't have a sense of is, if you remember back to 2015, the Park Board did a very extensive survey of capital needs at its parks, and then it assigned a percentage to each park of essentially what percentage of those needs had been identified, and that was very interesting. And I'm wondering if you've considered going back and looking at the results from that kind of an aspect, so that we have both a individual park, but also a citywide perspective on what percentage of identified need has been met, so that we have a sense of the aggregate impact of this program. And on the operations side, for example, I remember one of your goals was to go from 14 days to 10 days for a mowing cycle. Be nice to know if that has been met. Those sorts of things, those sorts of output measurements would be great to have in the future.
Chair Priest Simpson and Member Brandt, we can bring that information to some degree back to you. We know already that we were able to accomplish more frequent mowing, and that may have tailed off a bit during COVID, but we did hit rather quickly the 10-day mowing frequency. And I think it had to do with cleaning of recreation centers more frequently or more deeply, pruning of trees. There were several kind of standards that we have met. The question you ask around, have we met the other things, and I can remember our summer of engagement where we were meeting with neighbors basically 4 nights a week, trying to understand the needs that they have in their neighborhoods relative to what we call closing the gap at the time. And it was a really amazing process to get to know people and their neighborhood park needs. We haven't done any reassessment other than to continue to assess the equity, seeing if the equity scores have changed. But Member Brandt, I'm intrigued by your question, and I'll bring that back to the planning staff and see if there's something that we can do to begin tracking that. We know that we're a small part of what changes might be beneficial for a city, but that's actually something we would like to know if we're making those kind of changes by what we're doing through this program.
And one more question. Can you give us a sense of how the equity scores have changed?
Chair Priest Simpson and Member Brandt, every year when we go through this, we look at the requirements that are in the ordinance, and we begin to understand them a little more deeply. And as I noted, and you followed up, This hadn't been done before, so we were learning off of our own knowledge, basically. So we begin to understand the equity metrics a little bit better and a little bit differently every year we go through this. I couldn't right now tell you how they have changed, but I can try to put some information together and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bennett.
Thank you, Chair Priestinson. I just want to comment, since I'm the Park Board Commissioner, that this program, I think, is very well supported by the current Board of Commissioners, I would say, and we certainly can't take responsibility for the creation of it. It was in place when we got here. But I'll say, as a commissioner, it's nice for me because I think it's also very transparent. So we have some good tools that we can share with the public, and people seem to really understand that there's a queue. There's a queue of projects out there, and that projects are waiting their turn to be funded. And in a lot of cases, they can look at our Power BI tool and see where their park might be in the queue. And so I think, to me, this is just the way that there are a lot of different public assets that could be managed in this way. And I think this is just a really successful in every regard. And the other thing is, one of the things that changes in the equity metrics, as I understand it, is the demographic data is refreshed annually. And we have a city that is changing, and population centers might be growing in some areas that might then have a deficiency, a disparity, a gap of some sort. So that allows the planning staff to tweak, things within the list. So anyway, I can't speak highly enough of this. It helps me be a good commissioner because I have a way to respond to questions from the citizens about when is this going to happen here. So I just wanted to say that.
Any other questions? Mayor Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I vaguely remember the negotiations and the conversation that happened back maybe 8+ years ago regarding the allocation of the park dedication fees. Was there a legal nexus that was required?
Chairperson and Mayor Member Fry, there is a legal nexus. So the nexus is basically that the dollar. There's probably a couple, and others might be able to correct me if I leave something out, because I know Member Brand has followed this closely for years. The dollars have to be spent within the neighborhood of the development projects, and if there are no opportunities to do that, they have to be spent within 1/2 mile of the project.
That's the conclusion that we came to. Was there a legal requirement that?
Member Fry, I think the key was that was the nexus as close as we could interpret from the state statutes.
Understood.
And I'll mention also that the other thing that we're very cautious of is that the parkland dedication ordinance, we try to translate it into really simplistic language. We say it has to be a new park asset to serve new park users. So we can't replace a playground with it. We can add on to a playground to accommodate new users, but we can't replace the playground.
Okay. Thanks. That was my recollection too.
All right. Thank you for that, and also thank you for recognizing that was an issue that Vice President Brandt brought up, and you make a good point. You don't have a solution yet, but you've recognized it, and that's the first step, and it's really important, and I just want to lift that up. And also say thank you all for your deeply intentional, community-driven processes. There's clear, precise focus on equity and the environment and climate and our communities, and I would like to name that is part of safety. Because people feel seen when the process starts with them, and when you feel seen, you feel valued, and it changes the safety dynamic. So I wanted to applaud you all for all of that hard work and the continuation of it, and thank you for that work, for all of you. Anything else on that note? With that, I will ask the clerk to receive and file this item. Members, we are going a little out of order to make an accommodation for some time constraints. So our next item is actually going to be what says I can't read over it now. It says number 8. So our next item is actually going to be receiving the 2024 budget current service level presentation. And we will hear from Jane DeSenza and Ben Zimmerman from the Budget Division of Finance and Property Services. Welcome, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Board President Priest-Stenson, members of the board. I am Jane DeSenza. I'm a principal budget analyst on our team, and I'm currently serving as the interim budget manager. So you'll be hearing from me and my colleague Ben Zimmerman today. We are here today to talk to you about the 2024 current service level budget. This is a charter requirement, and we're happy to provide you with the information. This is a presentation we also gave to council last week. So the information in these slides is the result of several months of work by our team as well as our partners throughout the city enterprise. And one important note, the CSL is really just the 2023 adopted budget rolled forward, so we're not presenting any new financial decisions with these slides. A brief agenda for everyone. We'll review the current service level, the positions and programs, various expense categories that are part of it. Throughout this presentation, you'll see us comparing the 2024 CSL to the 2024 plan that council considered in December. We'll look at a revenue forecast and any changes that have come recently, and then we'll take a look at the next steps for the city as we move toward budget adoption in December. So we'll move into some key financial takeaways. The main one is that the city of Minneapolis is in a strong financial position. So looking at all funds, we see that expenses are growing at 2.1% and revenues are growing at 4.3%. The general fund specifically, though, and this is the bar chart that's on the slide, shows a different pattern. So expenses in the general fund are growing faster than revenues, though we're still within our 5-year financial direction plan. So on this bar chart, you'll see we have 3 years reflected. So the 2023 budget, which is what was adopted, the 2024 plan, which is what council considered as part of that biennial structure that we've moved toward. And then the far right is the 2024 CSL information that we're talking to you about today. So the gap between expenses and revenues is an intentional move that the city has made over the past several years. In order to recover from the financial downturn related to the pandemic, the city made the decision that we would need to return city services at a faster clip than revenues were likely to come back. And we've been able to fill that gap with ARPA, CARES money, and also one-time uses of cash. So the takeaway here is that in the general fund, there are still limited opportunities for ongoing new expenses. And this is just a snapshot in our budget process, not a recommendation at this phase. So this slide gives us a look at the capital program. These are the numbers as they were adopted by council in December as part of the 2023-24 budget. So the 2023 amounts were appropriated and the out years are considered the planning years. So for 2024, CSL for capital is $234 million about. So there are no new numbers on this slide. The Capital Long Range Improvement Committee is still meeting to come up with their recommendations, and then our colleague Adam will be back to discuss those later on in the year. Also a note that if you want more detailed information on any of the capital projects, there's a lot of detail in the budget book, which is on the city's finance page of the website. So moving into the current service level portion of this presentation, I'll be talking a bit about the expenses. So what are the categories, what are the positions and internal service charges that we're looking at? And then throughout, you'll see us referencing the financial policies, which council adopted earlier this year and which guide the work. So this slide shows us how we think about the current service level expenses, which are really our first step in calculating the 2024 budget. So there are 3 categories of spending, the first being calculated personnel, which adjusts year to year based on actual staffing and compensation plans. We have internal service charges, which also adjust year to year based on anticipated overhead costs. And then the base, which is generally the non-personnel section of the budget, and it's held flat year to year. So looking at the base first, since it's the most straightforward, again, it's held flat. This is often where departments have budgets for things like travel, training, office supplies. Our process as the budget division is to take the data from the most recent adopted budget, we remove anything that was one-time in nature, and we make sure, now that we're in this biennial structure, that any 2024 items are added in. So when we look overall at the 2024 CSL, this last slide, or this last bullet point shows you that there were $17 million of one-times in 2023 that were removed, and 9.6 million in investments that are planned to begin in 2024. Okay, looking at personnel, this is a significant portion of the operating budget, and these expenses do fluctuate year to year. So we have an annual budget update process that we work with human resources as well as all city departments to accomplish. The goal is always to have an accurate roster of our city staff and also to have the best information possible for making sound projections for future personnel costs. So this part of the budget especially is a very collaborative one. And in the 2024 CSL, we are seeing slightly higher salary and fringe expenses than we originally planned for. That's due in large part to collective bargaining agreements that have settled, and so we're now more accurately projecting those costs. So the collective bargaining agreements, of course, impact salary schedules and COLAs and the like. So as we see labor relations finalize more and more of those, there may be adjustments to come. Additionally, some of the fringe costs are not yet finalized, so medical and dental employer costs will still be reviewed, so those numbers will be incorporated later on this summer. The city is self-insured, so that has helped us avoid record-setting numbers for those costs in previous years and has saved the city tens of millions of dollars. So we're continuing to work with finance leadership and HR on these items. And the last expense category that we'll talk about today is internal service charges. So internal service departments and funds are those that provide goods and services to other departments within the city. So on this slide, we're looking at IT, public works fleet, property services, and self-insurance. So these areas use models to distribute their costs across the city enterprise. So those departments are first estimating their expenses for the coming year and then using an allocation model to distribute those costs throughout the city. Usually they consider factors like customer department FTEs, any department-specific projects that are upcoming, and information on historical actual spending. So the graphs in this presentation refer specifically to the general fund departments. And you can see that we had originally planned for a decrease in 2024. We are actually seeing an increase in costs. And I'll run through these major categories. So IT, the top section there, it appears to increase in 2024, and that's due in large part to a shift in how we're accounting for some IT costs. In this current year, we're showing them in as general fund transfers, but in 2024, moving forward, they become part of the IT allocation model. So that's really just a shift in where they're showing up in the city budget. Fleet has only small standard increases. And then jumping down to rent, this graph makes it look like rent is decreasing. It's actually increasing, so there are some changes in how we're showing those numbers as well. So City Hall rent is now being transferred directly to the Municipal Building Commission rather than being charged out to individual departments who have office space within City Hall. And the property services rent budget's also increasing due to factors like natural gas and electricity costs, as well as more and more of the new building coming online and being used. And then finally, the self-insurance aspect of this slide, the liability and workers' compensation sections, these are developed based on a third-party actuarial report that we receive annually. So the actuary takes a look at our previous costs and what they're projecting forward in future expenses. And so we are actually seeing an increase based on that actuarial report. And then per the financial policy, general fund departments are provided the budget to pay for those internal service charges each year. Okay, and with that, I will turn things over to Ben to talk about revenues.
Thank you. Welcome, good afternoon.
Thank you. Board President Priest Stinson, members of the board, my name is Ben Zimmerman, Senior Budget and Evaluation Analyst, here to walk through the revenues section. So thus far, we have focused on expenses, and it is important at this time to pivot and look at revenues in support of CSL expenses. I will note that revenues are based on collaboration each winter with departments and budget. As we walk through this, we're going to take a quick look at enterprise-wide revenues into all funds, but we're largely going to focus on general fund revenues, as that is where most decision-making is made by city leadership. The takeaway, I would say, is that revenue growth is generally in line with our expectations from last year, but the outlook has improved slightly for certain revenue streams. I will also note that with the state legislative session, there have been some things that have come through in the recent days that will impact certain revenue streams. We have not had the time to review that information in depth nor incorporate it into this presentation, but I will call those pieces out and make some brief remarks. All right, so first, the look at revenues into all funds. I will note that this only has external revenues, so we've filtered out transfers between funds, use of fund balance, really trying to highlight revenues external to the city coming in. I will also note that enterprise funds, grant funds, downtown assets, and capital are still under development. That's why in the slide you do not see that third column as you did on prior slides. We are just showcasing the 2024 plan at this time. We will be reviewing pro formas and finance plans with some of those departments in the coming weeks. And as those financials are finalized, we will be able to populate the 2024 budget. All that being said, we don't anticipate that 2024 budget to diverge too significantly from the 2024 plan. Moving on to the general fund, but before we get into the actual general fund revenues themselves, wanted to have a slide to look at transfers into the general fund. This will be the only slide where we are looking outside of the 2024 CSL. As you can see, we have some prior years as well as some out years. And this slide is really oriented around highlighting the primary transfer into the general fund to support general fund activities. Prior to COVID, the primary transfer came from the Downtown Assets Fund, and it was roughly $30 million per year. The Downtown Assets Fund was hit particularly hard by COVID, and because of that, the city lowered that transfer, but was able to use ARPA transfers for 3 years, 2022, 2023, and 2024, again, to stabilize general fund activities and allow the Downtown Assets Fund to recover. On this slide, you can see the 2023 and 2024 ARPA transfers highlighted in red, and those are roughly $47 million and $34 million respectively. It is the plan that in 2025, we will resume utilizing the downtown assets as the primary transfer into the general fund to support general fund work. And I again want to reiterate that this presentation is about the 2024 CSL, but we thought this was some important context to again explain how transfers have been used and will continue to be used to support general fund work. And before, again, we get into actual general fund revenues, since we're on the topic of the Downtown Assets Fund, it's important to highlight its primary revenue stream, which are local option sales taxes. So in 2022, we nearly hit pre-pandemic gross revenues for local option sales taxes, which is ahead of our anticipated schedule, and that's great. The outlook for 2024 remains positive. Through this year's budget process, we increased the 2024 planned amount by roughly 5.6%, or about $4 million increased to an outlook of about $72 million in 2024. This is one of those pieces that was impacted by the state legislative session. Again, we still need to unpack all that information, but the estimate looks like it could be about an additional $8 or $9 million in revenue per year. The one other thing I will note on this slide is that the recovery has been uneven. Sales tax has recovered quite strongly. since the pandemic started, whereas downtown restaurant and liquor taxes are lagging in their recovery. And with that, we will pivot to the general fund revenues. And again, the general fund is the primary focus when it comes to revenues. There's the most flexibility in terms of use. And again, this is where most city leadership and policy decision-making occurs. This slide again excludes transfers and use of fund balance because we want to highlight and focus on revenues external to the city coming into the general fund. Here again, the 2024 outlook remains positive, and through this year's budget process, we increased from the 2024 planned revenue amount by 1.4%, or roughly $8 million. That was driven largely by increases to franchise fees, local government aid, interest revenue, and license and permit revenue. I have 2 more slides on general fund revenue, and in those we're going to unpack a little bit more the largest 2 varieties on this slide, the darker blue taxes and the lighter blue intergovernmental revenues. So the first of those revenues to highlight was the blue taxes. Here you can see how this is disaggregated into sub-revenue types. The largest one being property taxes, as you can see. This is over 50% of revenue into the general fund. The property tax year follows our 5-year financial direction as documented in the 2023-2024 council adopted budget. That is a 6.5% levy in 2023 and a planned 6.2% levy in 2024. And I will note that that planned levy for 2024 covers the CSL only, which is what we're here presenting today. It accounts for no new spending or decision-making which may take place throughout the supplemental budget process this year. And one final slide on revenues. This is the second largest bucket on that slide a few prior, intergovernmental revenues. Again, disaggregating by the types of revenues that roll up into there. The largest one is local government aid, LGA. Again, you'll recall this was one of 4 revenues I called out driving the increase to overall general fund revenue outlook for 2024. During this year's budget process, we adjusted upwards from the 2024 plan by 5.3%, or about $3.5 million. This, again, is one of those revenues that has been impacted by the state's legislative session. We have to unpack this a bit more, but we would estimate that that increase of $3.5 million may increase by about $3 to $3.4 million more. And that is all I have for revenue, so I will turn it back over to Jane to bring it all together.
Okay, just to wrap us up on the general fund revenues and expenses. The general fund, of course, is where city leaders have the most flexibility to make decisions. And we've talked today about general fund CSL expenses and revenues. We've talked through the major categories and the considerations that we look at for each of them. This graph again shows us how the general fund revenues and expenses have been looking in previous years. As you can see in 2023 and the 2024 plan, they're balanced. We're on track for another balanced budget in the 2024 supplemental year, just as we have in prior years. So looking ahead to the rest of the summer for the city, departments are in the midst of analyzing their base budgets right now. They've been asked to look at their existing resources for alignment with city priorities. In early June, they'll submit that work as well as any new budget proposals to the budget division. In mid-June, they'll present to the mayor on their base budgets and funding proposals. In July, there'll be a decision-making period within the mayor's office. And also occurring towards the end of July, we're having a presentation to council on investments from 2023. So departments will have an opportunity to share their progress or any roadblocks that may have occurred with implementing their newer investments. And then, of course, by August 15, we'll hear from the mayor on the supplemental budget address. In September and in October, departments will be here to present to council on their budgets. There will be another overview like this one from our team with a little bit more detail. There will also be a joint presentation by all the departments who are working to prepare a plan for the settlement agreement implementation related to the MDHR agreement. And then, of course, this body will, by September 30th, vote on the maximum property tax levy. And we've also listed here the Budget Committee's public hearing dates, which are starting earlier this year than they normally do. So with that, I'll conclude and we can stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Vice President? Actually, let me switch that up. Commissioner Bene.
Thank you, Chair Priest-Stinson. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's really an interesting topic to me. This is a very minor question, but there was a slide that you had in the beginning of your presentation with the projects. And where could I get some more information on one of the line items there? Yeah, thank you for buzzing back.
Zip back to the capital.
Way back. Oh, yeah. So, for example, like on the public grounds and facilities, if I wanted to understand the increase there of what's planned in 2024, where would I drill down into to find that?
Sure. So our budget book, which you can find at minneapolismn.gov/budget.
568 pages.
It's
yes.
all there, but there's a capital section that's
Okay.
specific. And so all the information should be linked out there. If you're having trouble finding something more specific, we're happy to reach out to you with that later on.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so the other, I guess, couple of comments or questions. The park board appears here, but I'm going to belabor the point often as the park board commissioner, just kind of differentiating what's happening on the park board side and what's happening really with the city. But other than this projects area, and then I think also we do pay the city, so probably we show up in some of the intergovernmental revenue pot. We do it because you handle a lot of services for us as well. But anyway, other than that, this is really separate. This is not the park board's budget, our general fund allocations, any of the ways in which, we are forecasting out our, our 2024 and beyond. So I just want to make that clear so everybody understands that it's not part of this. So, thank you.
Great.
Thank you, President Priest-Stinson. Wondered if we might, I'm just trying to grasp a few of the concepts that you went over. If we could go back to page 4 for a minute.
Sorry, which
So your basic takeaway here is that these are planned imbalances that are offset by ARPA, essentially, at this point.
President Priest-Stinson, Board Member Brandt. So the gap that you're seeing, we've filled in the past with the federal stimulus dollars, CARES, and then ARPA, as well as one-time uses of cash. So the goal of this bar chart is just to show that there is that gap that persists. We do have a plan to get back to balancing our budget without the aid of the federal stimulus dollars.
And that's in another slide where essentially you show the federal stimulus dollars gap filling yielding to a renewed transfer from the Downtown Assets Fund?
Correct. That President Priest-Stinson, Board Member Brandt then showed that slide that shows us moving away from using ARPA and getting back to downtown assets as downtown recovers.
And I heard you throw out, I think, 37 million and 24 million in connection with that. Am I remembering correctly? And what do those represent?
I'll let Ben jump in for that one.
Sorry, to clarify, this is on the transfer slide? Is that,
Yes.
I believe, yeah, you might be referring to, I noted the ARPA transfers.
In 23 and 24?
Yes, so we had ARPA transfers in 2022, 23, and 24, and on this slide, we've highlighted them for the final 2 years, 2023 and 2024. And in 2023, that is $47.1 million, and in 2024, that is $34 million.
34, thank you. And then when you get into 2025 and the Downtown Assets Fund and ensuing years looks roughly the same size, roughly what are you talking about there? The 30 million that you were before the pandemic?
President Priest and Vice President Brandt, yes, the plan is to return to roughly the same level of about $30 or $32 million in 2025.
Okay. And when you lay out the process of establishing the current service level expenses, things like fluctuations in the cost of petroleum products, those would be handled under service charges of the internal service funds for things like fleet, or where would you budget those?
President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, yes, fleet fuel costs would be part of those allocation models. But there are, effects of inflation are felt at the department level in their non-personal budgets in many cases. And those are management challenges that department heads have to meet.
And then when you go to base costs, you mentioned that the mayors and the councils adopted one-time change items that were, I believe, included for 2023, but were not intended to be continuing programs. Those represent the 17.2 million, correct? And then,
Yes, President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, that's correct.
okay, and when you're talking about 9.6 million in investments, you're not talking capital investments, you're not talking cash investments, you're talking about essentially what the mayor proposed spending in 2024 a year ago when he presented the combined two-year budget.
Yeah, so there were actually, President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, there were just a few items that were planned to begin in 2024. So the mayor recommended, and then council had an opportunity to review them, much the same process that they did for the 2023 items. Like one particular one that is the bulk of that is the elections budget, since it's a presidential elections year. That's, I think, $4.8 million of that total. And then the other big component is moving us off of ARPA. Again, the violence prevention work that was funded on ARPA will be moving to the general fund in 2024.
And in terms of PERA, which was a big headache for the city 10, 12 years ago in particular, what do you anticipate there? Are we locked into contributions at the state level from our 30-year agreement, or are we subject to year-to-year fluctuations according to what's happening in investment markets?
President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, that's a great question, and I was not here 10 or 12 years ago, so I might lean on our Deputy CFO for more context.
Thank you.
President Priest-Stinson, Member Brandt, we do have a schedule that we go by for those payments. They have fluctuated over the past, and I know we have been working to decrease some amounts. For instance, we pay for the teacher association, whatnot, so we have had ongoing conversations, but they are generally set by a schedule
Okay.
that was approved previously.
Okay. And President Priest-Stinson, interim budget director, the liability line that appears to increase in internal service charges between the 24 plan and the 24 budget, does that simply reflect, since worker comp is separated out, is that primarily the settlements we've been reading about? Okay.
President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, that's largely, yes, that's correct.
And are those charged back to departments according to their claims experience?
President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, yes, so we provide the budget for them to carry those expenses.
Okay. All right. You mentioned, I believe, that the sales taxes in '22, Mr. Zimmerman, almost hit the pre-pandemic level. Where are we in 2023?
President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, in 2023, with the data available, start to the year is looking again quite strong. I would say on pace with 2022 or even slightly ahead.
Okay. And enough to carry the, if it continues into 24, enough to carry the transfer amount that you had shown in a previous slide?
President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, The figures for the transfer in the presentation and the 2023-2024 budget and our outlook in the out years beyond that, I believe we are still in financial position to hold to those. There will be subsequent conversations this summer to revisit all of our planned transfers to ensure the financials are strong, but at this current time, yes, we're looking good.
And I believe I heard you say, Mr. Zimmerman, that you anticipate 3.5 million more in state revenues, with the possibility of almost that much as you analyze what came down during the session?
President Priest-Stinson, Vice President Brandt, yes, correct. During our budget process, through the information available when we had to put together the CSL, we estimated an increase of $3.5 million from the 2024 plan. And just in the last day or two, with additional information we've received, the outlook is that there could be yet an additional 3.4 million, 3 to 3.4 million.
And is that primarily on the LGA side of things, or is it scattered among the various things like public safety aid and?
That is specifically LGA.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Other questions from my colleagues? All right, seeing that, first of all, thank you both for presenting. And with that, I will ask the clerk to receive and file this item. Next, we move on to our next two items, which will all be from Mr. Hoppy, our Director of Banking Investments and Debt, for our city debt, for our authorized projects, our BET authorizing resolution, our BET award resolution. He will take all of those items, and welcome, Mr. Hoppy. Thanks for being here with us today.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Investment and Taxation, and thank you, President Priest-Stinson. I'm Alan Hoppy, Director of Banking Investments and Debt for the city. And I've got a presentation that covers 4 items. 2 of them are informational, and the last 2 are resolutions. So this whole presentation is focused on debt, a little bit of a look back on the present, interest rates, and then getting a show of what's authorized for debt issuance, and then lastly, getting your approval for us to go forward with debt issuance. So with that, I'll just start right out with the presentation. So we do a calculation on the debt capacity. I'm not going to go line by line here. I'll get right to the bottom line. That we're using 12% of the authorized debt. And in a big picture sense, we might be, when it comes to tax-supported debt, selling maybe $50 million, but we're paying off practically that much each year in debt service. So it's kind of even in a general sense, and you'll see some of that. Here's the different buckets of types of debts. We have about $1 billion, probably closer to 800 million at this point, but just in a simple picture, about $1 billion. Of that, we've got solely tax-supported debt. That's the third line down at 284 million. In the top part, I show 309 million of enterprise. So later, I'll get to the some of the debt issuance we're going to do is enterprise. That's your water utility, sewer utility, et cetera. And of course, we'll have the tax-supported debt in there. Some of these other line items have been rather constant over time. The convention center, Target Center, the special assessment and housing improvement association program. Those are self-supporting, paid with assessment dollars from the projects. Here's a brief history of our debt, basically roughly 10 years of what you just saw a snapshot of for 1 year. On the far left here, we have 2022, and you can see it's not dramatically different than 2013, roughly a 10% increase over all those years, so it's below inflation from a growth standpoint. Our current bond ratings, we have AAA from Standard & Poor's with a stable. First, I'll say the rating agencies do kind of a, here's your rating, and then they do, by the way, we're optimistic or pessimistic. And so in this case, Standard & Poor's AAA with a stable outlook, Fitch is a AA plus, so that's just a notch below the highest rating you can get, but they have a positive outlook, so we'll be optimistic about the future for that rating. Generally speaking, we describe the city as a AAA credit. That's kind of leaning toward the Standard & Poor's rating when we say that. We do get a non-solicitor rating from Moody's, so when we go to bond issue or sell bonds, we're typically these days getting 2 ratings, one from Standard & Fitch and one from Fitch and one from Standard & Poor's. There was some debt in the past that was rated by Moody's. Moody's continues to rate that debt, but we're not paying them anything for that. So when we go and get our bond rating, we do pay these individual, we pay the 2 rating agencies that we signed up with. Here's a snapshot of our current bond issuance plans. Round numbers, 138 million, 73 tax supported, 51 in the enterprise. The city improvements, 13 million, and a park improvement about 1 million. Later in 2022, if something comes up, we'll bond for it. We have the Restack project going on here with City Hall, so we may be doing some charter bonds this year for that. And then, of course, if anything else comes along the way that's in our wheelhouse. Here's a snapshot of interest rates, or a couple pictures on interest rates. So the green, I'm not going to, the bottom portion deals with spreads. I'm not going to go into that, just another version of the lines on top. But you can see the green line is 2 years back. The brown or gold line was 1 year back, and the red line is the present. And this is going over time, over 20 years, so it's what we call the yield curve. You can see that short-term municipal rates, just like treasury bonds or treasury bills, are very high right now in the short term. Short term meaning, it depends on your definition, but 6 months, 12 months, a couple years. And then there's a dip in the middle in that 7-year neighborhood, and then it goes back up a little more of a normal. So going into the market right now, we will likely pay a little more than last year on net interest rate basis. Before I go to the next slide, so that dip that you see with the red line there, in that neighborhood around 10 years, this next slide is a picture of the 10-year, just looking at history going back in time for about 10 years or so. So you can see the volatility, you can see, move my mouse around. This low point here was a couple years back when we were in the middle of COVID and money was dirt cheap. Last year we were up in this range here, and which is kind of where we're at right now. So that's why I kind of expect something similar. Summary on the PowerPoint here on the just the general dynamics going on in the bond market. You even heard the budget folks say we're in stable financial condition. We have moderately diversified revenues. We've got a 6-year CIP in place, so it's easy to show the rating agencies what our game plan is and how the current bonding fits into that. Our debt levels, as you see, are, I would say, low, basically. And then, of course, we have the change in the governance that has happened here. So a number of changes that have all been positive for the city. Of course, the rating agencies will usually cite their opinion of financial management, and we have a good record with the rating agencies when it comes to financial management. Well, that might talk about the staff involved, but that also means the results that we've delivered with budgets and the overall financial health. Number 7 is what I see as a big swing factor when I talk about what our interest rates are likely to be when we sell debt. As you can even see in today's marketplace, treasury bills, 3-month or any of the short-term treasury rates have been climbing because of the uncertainty in Congress with the debt limit and all the things that go with that. So if the conversation isn't settled relatively soon, we go to sell our bonds in late June or early July, it could impact us. We go to market and we think it's an aberration for that week. We would probably step back from the marketplace and come back in a week later. Here we have a listing. This is a lot of data, a lot of line items. It's a detailed list of authorizations that the city councils received and approved. During that process, they have appropriations, and at the same time, they typically do bonding for the part that's going to be bonded. That's what you're seeing here. We have a column with the description of the project ID. We have some of the past approvals that hadn't been used up yet. Then we have the new approvals for the 2023 budget. Got a totals column. And then the rest of it is kind of descriptive information. So this top page or so is enterprise debt that we're authorized to do. So this is not what we're going to do, but what we could potentially do. The next, and I won't go through these individual line items unless there's one you want to go to. The next section is our tax-supported debt. So we've got a couple pages of that for all the various capital projects that are going to be constructed, built, purchased, et cetera. And then the lower section here is got the assessment information. So you have 229,275,000 authorized in this picture. And try not to make it dizzy here as I do that back and forth in size. So 229, and we're coming to you today asking for approval to sell 137,515. Let's see, I'm going to go actually to this next resolution. So we start on your list. If you click the agenda, I think this is the first one that comes up. And anyway, we have here the request. We have 2 resolutions. One to authorize us to sell the bonds, and then of course we're going to get bids from underwriters, and the next resolution will be for us to go ahead and award the sale of bonds. So you're allowing staff to move forward with both items. I could go deeper on any one of these, but it's probably better I stop at this point, President Priest-Stinson, and open it up for questions or comments.
Yes, Council President Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Hoppy for that presentation. I'm curious, you mentioned that the bond rating agencies, we pay them. And I'm just curious, how does that impact the ratings we receive? And then I think you said Moody's was a non-solicited rating, which seemed to be a little bit lower than the bond rating agencies that we pay. So I'm just curious about that distinction, and how does the payment versus non-payment, how does that impact our rating?
President Stinson and Board Member and Council President Jenkins, that's an astute observation of how things are working. I just need to go a little deeper to tell some of what's going on here. The non-solicited would apply to past bonds that we sold, that we had Moody's rate. So if we don't pay them today for the bonds we're issuing, they won't rate those bonds. Whereas we are paying Standard & Poor's and Fitch to rate the new bonds we're issuing, and so the ratings will apply for those. So we can't take a free ride and try to bring our bonds to the marketplace without a current bond rating. You would pay an extremely stiff price if that happened, or if we tried to do that. I'm not sure. I think that's some of the gist of what you're asking.
It would seem to me if we're paying Standard & Poor, then subsequently they would give us a better rating, I would suspect. Is that accurate? And I get that you're saying that Moody's is based on past bonds, not current bonds, correct?
Correct.
So I'm just curious what the impact of those relationships are.
President Stinson and Council President Jenkins, we do need to pay the rating agencies to do the work. We're not buying a rating per se. We're buying the work and the analysis for them to come up with an opinion. And of course, the SEC, Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, there's a bunch of these entities looking down really hard on these rating agencies. They got a lot of trouble back during the housing crisis because they kind of did, well, I don't know what legally was settled, but there were some questionable things that came along the lines of what someone might wonder.
Yeah, thank you very much. So there are no independent rating agencies per se?
President Stinson and Board Member Jenkins, these are independent entities. They're separate, they're out there, they do business. There are other agencies out there. We want to go with mainstream ones. There are a couple others that might specialize in corporate bonds or even do some municipals, but we want the name recognition of the bigger, the historic ones that have done these. It's name attraction. It makes it easier for the institutional portfolio managers that are buying our debt to go, yes, it's got an S&P rating or a Fitch rating. They may not allow, say, a Kroll rating or some other organization that does some ratings.
Okay, thank you.
So in other words, we're paying for the service of the analysis and the evaluation, not for favor in that way. And some, while there's many, some just have more credibility or maybe not respected is the right word, but they're just more used for the purpose that we're using. But if we were doing other processes or different types of bonding, there are specializations of others. But these are the ones that are most seen and most used, that when you go to go through the bonding process, these are the ones that are most recognized and most used for our purposes. Does that seem to sum that up?
President Priest Stinson, that is exactly right.
Okay. And just another thing, Council President Jenkins did also ask this, if I remember correctly, the different scores, they have different, so the double A all caps, double A plus, and A lowercase A1, there is not, they have their own numeration schedule. So they don't have one schedule that they all use, whereas they all have AAA, and that means the same thing. So they each do have their own scale and letters that they use and verbiage that they use to attach with it. So each entity would have its own. So these shouldn't be equated in that way of looking at it, like, oh, a double A plus versus a triple. That doesn't work kind of that way. There's a tool or a scale that they use of their own letter, right, for each different company.
President Priest Stinson, I would say that, yes, they each have their own scheme, but there is some consistency across the levels. So AAA is probably going to show up for all three of these. When you get to the double A, one might use a plus, one might use the one, and those would be comparable. The double A without anything would be comparable to the A lowercase 2. So they have their own.
We could create a table that had, for example, all three and then showed like where they're equal. So this is the top for each one. So that way we would all be clear on what they look like. That could essentially is what I'm getting at. Sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
We could do that. I'll clarify that AAA is the top rating from Standard & Poor's, and we would like to get a AAA from Fitch.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Just want to make sure we're all clear on that. Great. And then let's go in reverse order because I usually call on you first. Commissioner Abene.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple quick questions, comments. Back toward the beginning of this presentation, there were the bonding categories, and there was the park, they're right there, actually. Park Board and Downtown East Development. I just want to point out for my colleagues that the Park Board, those must be grouped because they're of like kind or something like that, because otherwise they would be completely unrelated.
I'm following kind of a historical practice of display.
Sure.
So there is some non-related elements with that because
It just catches my eye. I'm all Park Board all the time, so about 7 million of that, it's Parade Stadium is Park Board, and the rest is Downtown East.
Is that the Commons?
No, I mean, if it is, it still isn't the Park Board's debt. It was debt that the Park Board would have association with after the fact, so.
I'll see if we can split that out next time.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then the other thing I want to point out is on the assessments, we have a $1 million line item there, and this is for the disease tree removal program on private property. So remember, when the Park Board is doing assessments, it's for private trees. That's an important distinction. Now, I know it's causing a lot of hardship for certain people in our city, certain property owners in our city, but I just want to say we're assessing for something on a private property, and we have a mandate to do that. And then that's part of it, and I think the rest of it might be parkway assessments. And then if you could please go to the slide with the projects. I thought something on there was pretty interesting related to right there, the storm sewer line items. So, I'm somewhat new at this, but there's the general obligation bonds, those are against property taxes, but enterprise bonding is separate, right? And you can bond against an enterprise fund, and that's what's happening with the storm sewer line items.
President Priest Stinson and Board Member Abene, that's correct. There's some bonds are funded by fee revenue of the utility systems, and other bonds I think public finance theory would say where it's serving a broader range, or you can't line it up for just the revenue element of the operation, that you have maybe some infrastructure kind of things that might be warranted to be paid by general taxes rather than utility revenue.
What I find interesting about it is it looks like there are some categories of funding there that are related to essentially development that the city's doing, city development projects. So when there's private development in the city, the developer develops they build their own stormwater management systems by Chapter 54 requirements. And the Park Board does the same thing. When we build out a project, do some development, we also build our own on-site storm sewer system, stormwater management system. But the city is using for their development projects, the water distribution facility, Public Works, Hiawatha campus expansion, there's a requirement that storm sewer system is developed as part of those projects, and you're using the enterprise fund for that. And that's actually, I think, an interesting way of doing it. You can see doing it for street projects and things like that, or actually just working on the storm sewer system like the tunnel line item and things like that. That seems more pure. But the reason I'm bringing that up is that the statute actually prefers the repayment of storm sewer system improvements through the rate, through the enterprise rate, and not through property tax repayment. And so I just want to let my colleagues know it's nothing that will come before this body, but the Park Board is actually working on an initiative right now to have access to a portion of the enterprise fund dollars, a line item to the Park Board for our public storm sewer system. Because we don't have access to that money currently, and we develop quite a bit of storm sewer system, you can imagine. We're right at the lakes and the creeks and so on. So this is really shot out at me that the city's doing something that we have no access to do that puts us a little bit in difficulty with the way the statute 444 reads. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to that.
And Vice President Brandt.
Mr. Hoppy, if it'll help you sleep better tonight, I just got back from GFOA, and the consensus there among the people on the panels was that the speaker and the president will somehow bumble their way to an agreement or a delay of resolving the issue that will not provoke an immediate crisis, and also that states are flush enough generally with cash, not across the board, of course, but I think Minnesota would fit in that category, that their situation will help to shield local government finances. I wanted to vent a bit, and this is not directed at all at you. Feel free to sit down. I noticed that on this list of projects, and I know that we don't have the power to add or delete projects that the council forwards to us, is $100,000 for Fire 11. That's a project that was first proposed in 2010, April of 2010. It's a project to replace a fire station that will turn 100 years old in 2025. It was built for firemen, and they were all men back in those days, who slid down poles and probably got out of the fire station with a horse team to pull the rig. The project is to essentially move that fire station to a new site on East Hennepin, as you probably are aware, make it built from the ground up for both genders, all genders, and to provide better fire service on East Hennepin to some of the sites that are not well served now. Now, I'm sort of puzzled to see this on the list because the fire station really has nowhere to go. The place that's always been opened up for it is the East Yard site on Hennepin Avenue. And the East Yard site on Hennepin Avenue, again, has a couple of 19th century buildings that are used for storage. It has a building where a guy welds on a creosote block floor. It has a meeting room on the second floor that has no elevator access and clearly needs to be replaced as part of the overall Public Works consolidation. Now, the 30-year plan has been to consolidate everything at the Hiawatha facility. I've read that plan. And I think that's a wonderful idea. I have good friends who on both sides of that issue, but right now I pick up the paper in the morning and read that there's a group that may or may not come up with cash that may or may not have access to that site, and yet there's about $9 million, if my math is correct, in this bond authorization for the Hiawatha campus expansion. And that doesn't even address the separate issue of whether there's going to be a training facility there. And so I'm just a little unsure why we have this on the list at this point until things are resolved. And I've certainly made my feelings known on this to my council member, Council President Jenkins, and I appreciate her vote on the issue. And I'm wondering if somebody who's been privy to this can tell us what the plan is for resolving this issue, so that we can either find a new site for Fire 11 and a new site for water consolidation, or we can go ahead with the plan that's been on the books for 30 years.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I'm not sure if Mr. Hoppy can answer that question. I'm not sure if I can either. This has been a rapidly developing situation, and I mean, I think just this week we learned that the possibility of said group potentially purchasing what is known as the Roof Depot site and or subsequently Hiawatha Maintenance Facility. These things literally just developed this week. Yeah. And so, you know, I've been saying all along, we still have a conundrum because we have to figure out how we're going to replace that 100-plus-year-old facility that you spoke of, as well as make an ADA accessible fire station to help with our public safety response in that part of town, East Hennepin. And so those are questions that I think we're going to have to answer. I see Mayor Fry put himself in the queue to maybe address some of those.
Mayor Fry, real quick before you start, which was what I was up, and to be transparent, that's what I was getting up to confirm that you were talking about Roof Depot. But I will say before Mayor Fry gives his comments that, yes, this is a super recent development. And we also know that we will need a facility. And so in my opinion of what I'm sharing before I pass it to Mayor Fry, the money would still need to be there in order to do the thing that we still need, regardless of where we end up putting it. Just in my opinion, and it's developing. And Mayor Fry will add more context there, and then I'll just add real quickly as well that if I remember correctly, money can be moved to other projects so long as it's a like project. However, I don't think there's a suggestion that if that site no longer becomes available, that the purpose of needing a site and the reason for that would still remain, and so we'd be looking for another site. And now I will pass it to Mayor Fry.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam President. So, yeah, we spent a couple of weeks, the last several weeks of the session, working out a deal that would accomplish the city's goals, and the city has several. And these are things, by the way, that we don't just aspire to, but things that we need to do just to keep a functioning city and to ensure that people have water. Before I even get into that, I'll sort of short circuit this a little bit and say, with respect to this item that we would be voting on today in this resolution, it's not site specific. So this is money that we are going to need to have regardless of where the water facility ultimately is. And so regardless of what your position is on the Roof Depot site, this is still money that we're ultimately going to need. As it applies to the Roof Depot site, I figure since it was asked, I might as well lay out the negotiation and the agreement that was come to between the legislature and the city. So presently, the city is into this development about $16.7 million. That's a combination of design costs, of architectural work, that's security costs, and of course, that's the purchase of the parcel itself. The present value of the parcel is somewhere around, I believe, $11.5 or $11.7 million. we would need to get paid back $16.7 million into the water fund in order to make the water fund whole. That's not like an optional thing. We have to make sure that the water fund is whole for ratepayers, which are not exclusively, by the way, in the city of Minneapolis. And so the deal is as proposed, and we sent a letter, I sent a letter on this, would be the state would give us $4.5 million right off the bat now that would go towards design and preparation work at the new site, which is north of northeast Minneapolis. And then there would be 2 installments of approximately $5.7 million, equating out, and I might be, please don't hold me to this exact math, but it's around there, that would equate out to the present value of the property itself. The first installment would be $5.7 million, 2 of which would be paid in sort of an earnest money by the state, leaving $3.7 million that EPNI would need to provide by, I believe it was September 8th or 9th. If they provide the $3.7 million by that period, and of course the state provides the $2 million, which they will be providing, then we would then the next step would be to receive the final $5.7 million plus at the next session, the next legislative session. And so the idea here being it makes us whole, which is, again, something that is really not optional. We need to be able to pay the water fund, repay the water fund in some form, which is why, again, we've been having a lot of these conversations over the last several years. We still need to, 1, have a water yard. We need to have the public works facility. And 2, we do need to repay this fund. That would achieve it. And so that would give us the ability to have clean water and not double charge the property taxpayers. And that's the basic makeup of the deal. But again, this particular action is not site dependent. So regardless of whether EPNI achieves the $3.7 million or not, this still would allow us to move forward with a water yard in some form, in some location.
President Priest-Henson.
Please proceed.
Legally, I appreciate the mayor's explanation. Legally, that this may not be tied to the Hiawatha site. The way it reads is Hiawatha campus expansion. I am glad to hear there's a deadline for the EPNI to meet, because I don't want to see this hanging out there unresolved indefinitely. I would point out, just from an efficiency standpoint, having a facility on Hiawatha Avenue with good access to all parts of the city sounds a lot more attractive than a site that's north of northeast Minneapolis, which would be putting essentially a good section of the city's public works infrastructure away from its main campus and away from the city that it serves. And I'm wondering if the amount of money that's in this bond resolution is scaled at all to the anticipated development costs of this new site that I'm just hearing about today.
President Priest-Henson and Vice President Brandt, the bonding that we have here was based on the project as it exists at the moment. The message that we are bringing here is that the money will be used regardless of which site, and whether or not the city has to reassess the cost for a different site. I think that's probably up to the engineers to do the analysis.
Okay. Thank you.
So to be clear, since we are broadcasting, just to emphasize, this is not tied to a site. This is project-specific, and it's still named Hiawatha Campus Expansion because literally this did like just happen. So that could easily be changed as a line item to the facility or whatever we wanted to call it and remove the Hiawatha. The Hiawatha is still there because that was the plan up until very, very, very recent that this wouldn't have been updated. Accurate? Assessment?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, just because we're broadcasting, I want to make sure people are clear about what we're voting on, and also the name discrepancy as it was brought up. I mean, that's what it was called, because that's what it was going to be. We could change the name, but the funding would still be there because the facility is still needed regardless of location. Just wanted to emphasize, it's a hot button topic and want to make sure we can avoid confusion specific to what we're voting on for folks that are watching.
President Priest Stinson, if I could just further clarify,
Absolutely.
is the plan still to move Fire Station 11 to the East Yards when that site is vacated for wherever it ends up? And I don't expect Mr. Hoppy to answer that, but perhaps the mayor could. Okay. I just speak as a member of CLIC who invested a lot of time into reviewing these various projects and hate to see them fall apart.
Understood. I believe that's an old-fashioned, we'll get back to each other on that one. All right. With that being said, Council President Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I am curious, though, I hear from Mr. Hoppy, from yourself and the mayor, that this is an allocation towards a project, but I thought bonding had to have some specific identities to them, like we are going to use this money to do this at this place at this time. Am I mistaken in that?
President Priest, Stinson, and Councilmember Jenkins, I think that's a good way to put it. To the extent that any adjustment to the existing resolution would need to be done, we would have to come with that. But getting the money itself, we would be good to go down this process to get the money. And later, if it's decided that we're not going to be going forward with the existing site, then if there is anything that we need to do to reallocate to a different project, or to the extent it needs to be done as a different site, the purpose would be the same. So I think we're good in everything, but I guess it kind of depends. I can't answer the question as far as would the city need to do a change in its resolution for changing the site.
I mean, we couldn't have this and then go build a stadium, right?
Correct.
All right, I just wanted to get that clarity since we are being televised.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, are there any for Commissioner Benny?
Yep, thank you, Chair Priestinson. I just want to sort of add to that. There are categorical spendings here. There's categories of spending. So, for example, on the storm drains and tunnels rehab program, it's not specifically calling out the storm drains, but it's a category of spending. And I think that's how I'll think about the water distribution facility pot of money. I mean, so it isn't, I think it's reasonable to say it's not precise. It's not, you don't have to bond money in a very precise way, so long as you're using the money for the purpose that it's articulated here, so.
All right, with that, first, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file the presentation portion that we received, and then with regard to the two bonding resolutions to consider for approval. Bonding, I just want to put out a reminder that bonding resolutions do require 4 affirmative votes per Charter Article 5.5, so we would need 4 votes to move forward with the bonding resolution. Were you still walking through when we kind of stopped, or are you?
President Priest, since my presentation was finished, I'm
Okay.
here if there are any other questions.
Okay, and then was there any further walkthrough on that resolution, or are we?
I think the short answer would be no, but I would, again, if there wanted to do some questions, I can go into things about bond structuring, all that kind of stuff. But basically, we have these 3 categories: assessment bonds, some enterprise bonds that paid for by fees, and then the tax-supported debt. So there's 3 groups, and you saw that long list of projects. That's what we're, and actually the projects in the resolution are the ones we're actually bonding for. And the amounts for each one is listed correspondingly, so.
Okay, all right. Do you still have a question? Vice President Brandt.
One question, Mr. Hoppy, that's more related to your particular expertise, and that is, I believe, when we approved a similar resolution last spring, you told us you expected a net interest cost of, I think it was about 3.5%. Do you have any expectation, assuming that the U.S. debt doesn't go to smithereens?
President Priest, Ensign, and Vice President Brandt, in this particular chart that I have up here, I included the true interest cost or rate that we paid in 2021. Right up at the top there, it says 1.39%. And then last year we paid 3.27. 3.27, that was we call the true interest rate. That nets in any bond premium and differences between coupons and yields, et cetera. And so at the moment, we're a little bit if we use this curve here as a reference point, I would say probably 3.5 would be a reasonable ballpark today. So if I did say 3.5 last time, good news is we came in a quarter under.
Yeah. Any further questions? All right. With that, may I please have a motion to approve the resolutions? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolutions are approved. And then we move on to the last item of our agenda, which is a transmittal memo regarding accessible projects from the City Council, for which the Board of Estimate and Taxation will consider approving the issuance of these tax-exempt general obligation assessment bonds at a future meeting. Colleagues, does anyone have any questions or comments about the memo? Again, we're not taking a vote. We're simply saying that we know that these items will come before us at a future date for a vote. It is the Mill District, 1st Street South, 2nd Street South, 13th Avenue South Street Resurfacing Project, and the second one is the 2023 Street Lighting Replacement Project. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file that item, and we have completed all business to come before us, and without objection, we stand adjourned.